What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Comically Boston. Today is episode 132, another beautiful Monday here in Boston. It is February 26th. We're creeping into the springtime. It's feeling a little springish today. It's almost 50 degrees here in Mass. Still feels a little cooler, but for us, a 50-degree day is like summer. But we got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the Avatar: The Last Airbender show on Netflix that just came out. I've watched the entire series, and you'll hear my thoughts on that. It seems that Marvel has dropped the name for Avengers 5 being Kang Dynasty, so we'll talk maybe about a possible new title for Avengers 5. What could happen if they do pivot completely away from Kang? Maybe with these boys in Deadpool 3, or Deadpool and Wolverine coming out in July. And also my excitement. This week is Dune Part 2 week. Comes out March 1st. So I believe Thursday is like the first days you can really see it for like public audiences. Reviews have already been coming out and stuff, so I'm super excited about that. But we'll get into it. But moving on a little bit more, we're going to head into the headlines a little bit and some news from the last week. We know that the Spider-Man 2 video game getting its New Game Plus version of the game months after, what is that, 6 months, almost 5 months after the launch of the game back in October. So New Game Plus finally coming around. Hopefully maybe there's a DLC with that. We don't know about a DLC, but we know that there will be 100% be some more outfits. Here's two of them right here. I like the one on the left for Miles. He's kind of wearing like almost Daredevil-ish red glasses. That's kind of cool. The one on the right almost looks like Peter has a like Carnage suit almost, kind of, not really. And then there's two more suits. These are some colorful ones. You see Miles is in the purple here and with the green, and you know, it kind of looks like symbols all over it. And then I don't know if this is like Spider-Punk-ish, but they got like headbands on, and Peter's got headphones, and he's in the blue with the big spider symbol on the chest. Not bad, you know. I like these suits. Not all of the suits in the game I liked, but you know, I'm curious enough to see what the new ones they are adding, and I will probably go back and play that game for a second time once the New Game Plus mode is out. That seems fun. But a game I played when I was a kid and absolutely loved. They are now releasing Star Wars: The Battlefront Collection, which they've come out with Star Wars Battlefront and then Battlefront 2 on the PS4 and PS5, but those games were inspired off of these original Star Wars Battlefront games, and so they're bringing the classic collection to PC, to Xbox, to PS5, and even PS4 probably as well. But that's coming March 14th. I'm actually excited for that. I probably will end up getting that just to run around and see how the game is played years later and see what they did to it. But I remember playing that game with my buddies when I was younger and absolutely having a blast, you know, just flying around, not even really knowing everything about Star Wars at the time either. Some interesting images came out last week though, for concept art in the same type of realm or style of the Into the Spider-Verse stuff. They have been making concept art for a Batman Beyond movie. So there's a couple images here. There's one there. There's one here with him running down the street with like a Tokyo sign LED in the background. Oh, just it looks so good. And I loved Batman Beyond when I was younger. That was like the real first Batman that I dove into and loved so much. Just the costume, you know, with the red emblem on the chest, and he could fly and shit. Like, yeah, that was into it. I was into the animated show when I was younger as well for the Batman show, but when it came to Batman Beyond, for some reason I loved Terry McGinnis, and yeah, just, I don't know, if they did do this movie in a style of Spider-Verse style, I wouldn't be mad at it, you know, I'd watch it. I hope it gets green lit sooner rather than later. I wouldn't even mind a live action Batman Beyond with maybe Michael Keaton playing an old man Bats, you know, like apparently that was the plan, but after the Flash, if the Flash went well but the Flash didn't go well, so then they're like, we're scrapping that idea, where maybe they shouldn't even have done a Flash movie and just done a Batman Beyond movie. I think more audience members would have wanted to see that rather than Ezra Miller be the Flash, you know, like that movie wasn't all that bad, but him as a person is terrible, so no one wanted to see it, you know, and I don't blame them. Back to some more news. The ACOLYTE is going to be streaming, possibly. It has a tentative date, but it might move. The ACOLYTE, though, is a very I'm hyped for that show. Very interesting show that we don't know too much details about, but the cast seems stacked. We don't really know when it's set, but if that comes out June 5th, I will be a happy man. Some other news from HBO, that a spin-off series, much like House of the Dragon, but another one in the Game of Thrones world, is going to be coming to HBO in 2025, and that will be called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight. I don't know who that will be following, or what it will tie into, but I've also heard rumors maybe that they're going to be doing an Aegon's Conquest, which I think a lot of people want to see, but, you know, maybe this next thing that I'm talking about, maybe a lot of people don't want to see. Me personally, I've been just starting to do the Harry Potter movie rewatch recently. My buddy had never seen them, and he was staying with me last week while my family was away. So for a week, we're sitting here watching movies together, and he's like, man, you watch a movie every day? And I'm like, yeah, so which movie? And I would give him like options. And he's like, well, I've never seen the Harry Potters. And I'm like, what? So then we just spent the week every night watching the next Harry Potter movie. So he got from 2 because he had just seen 1. So we watched Chamber of Secrets all the way to Deathly Hallows Part 1 and filled in all those gaps for him. So now he still needs to see Deathly Hallows Part 2, you know, in the ending. But still, you know, going back and watching those movies, I love the Harry Potter movies, man. They're so good, and they're much like what I wanted Marvel to be like, where each movie, the cast has gotten older, and we've been spending so much time with these casts. Even the background characters are the same background characters from like the first movie, and they just keep getting older, and they're just still in the background, but they're still a part of the universe. So they didn't change the characters. There's no real recastings going on in the Harry Potter universe. There's no real like drama, as far as I know, like back in the day when they were making them, between cast members or anything like that. And you know, the writing's so good because something over here ties into something here, and it might even like something in this, you know, a little detail that you didn't even think was necessary in this earlier movie, and then all of a sudden it's a big detail in a later movie, and then you're like, yes, if you paid attention to everything that they said to you, it all pays off, and it's never for nothing. I don't think there's any real big plot holes in Harry Potter. It's a wonderful franchise, and I really love Daniel Radcliffe in the role, and what is it, Emma Roberts? Something. Hermione's great, Ron's great, Rupert Grint, you know, Grint. I love the three of them so much, and just how they age throughout the movies. You know, it's much like how I was growing up, and now I'm a grown-ass man, and they're grown-ass men, they have kids and shit, so like, it's wild, like, how time has just moved. And I was like, you know, this first movie came out in 2001, I was 2, you know what I mean? Like, I was a baby, and I grew up watching these movies, and he was a young boy in the first one, so I was a young boy watching them. And then as the movies came out over time, I started getting older. By like 2011, I'm 12, you know, like, so I'm getting older and older, and I was always an old soul, so I matured quicker than most, and you know, I got the context of like him losing his family, and it's a great movie, man. If you haven't seen Harry Potter, I assume, before my buddy, I assumed people had just seen this movie because it's such a big franchise. But there's a lot of people out there that apparently have not touched the Harry Potter's water. If that's true, go watch those Harry Potter movies, because I would hate for the first time you get exposed to Harry Potter to be, long story short, I just went on a big tangent for this, that there's a Harry Potter reboot series that's going to be a TV show for Max, that HBO, I believe, is doing, and it's going to be maybe 2026. So I'm saying, like, they're going to have to recast Harry, and they're going to redo it all. I mean, maybe it is better off as a show, and season by season you watch them age each year, and it will actually be a year instead of sometimes 2 years, 3 years in between movies. I don't know, man. I really don't know how that will be, and I really hope they do a good job, because I would hate for them to mess that up and really disappoint a lot of people that have been fans of this shit for a long time. Like, I actually want to see Harry Potter 9. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see what happened to Daniel and them as adults. You know, like, do their kids get into trouble at school? You're telling me after Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2 and they're grown up and they send their kids to school, and it's Harry and Ginny and Ron and Hermione, and they have kids and their kids are friends and they're in school. You know what I mean? Like, you're telling me Harry's child didn't, or Ron's child being friends, didn't get into any trouble in that school? I call complete bullshit, you know, and I think this story continues. I don't think Voldemort just died and went on, you know, and I don't think he would have been the only bad guy. I think there's a bad guy that steps into his shoes or whatever. You know what I mean? I think the story continued on. But, you know, if it was where it ended, I'm happy where it ended, but I don't necessarily want to see it rebooted either. You know, sometimes you just got to let things end and let it be the end, you know? Like the wise man Bryan Cranston said about Breaking Bad, sometimes things just end and it's okay, you know, and that's perfectly fine, you know. Next up on the docket, The Boys, I have caught up on. I've watched all 3 seasons. I've yet to watch Gen V, so maybe I'll do that before June. But The Boys, now on Prime, is going to be streaming its next season, June 13th. Season 4 comes out. And will that be the final season? Not sure. I didn't ever think they were going to get 3 seasons after what I saw in the first, and then I initially started the show back when it was like started, and I was like rubbed the wrong way by how violent and gory it was. And then I watched some other violent and gory stuff in the meantime. And then, you know, 2-3 years later, the season 3 was out and people were talking about it. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll go back and catch up. And then I did, and then I was actually into it. So now I'm like, all right, cool. Maybe now I have to watch season 4. Maybe it's on my list. But we'll talk more about what I've been watching in the What You've Been Watching section of the show coming towards the end. But stay tuned for that. Superman Legacy coming in 2025 from director James Gunn. Here's a little set photo here in Atlanta, I believe, with Nathan Fillion, I see, Isabella Merced, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. Shout out to her. We see a lot of these other cast members here. We see big old Superman with the shaved face in the background. He's way in the back, and you can still see him. That's, you know, David Cornsweat's a big boy if he's back there. And then also right over, holding over his shoulder, that's Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor with the bald head. Not the bald guy over on the right. That's going to be a completely different character. But next to David Cornsweat, bald guy, that's Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, and he looks good, man, as a bald head. I don't think he would look good as a bald head, but then I remembered Fury Road, and he was bald in that as well. And he looked, you know, he was painted white, so he looked a little bit extra pasty and bald. But I don't know. I think Lex Luthor is, and he's going to be the Lex, is going to be pretty menacing. I'm into it, but also, you know, we have to talk Avengers Kang Dynasty. So it seems they've dropped the title. They've stopped working on it. Dustin Daniel Cretton, the director of the Kang Dynasty movie, was now moved back to a Shang-Chi 2, which we should have got like a year ago. So Shang-Chi 2, I'm actually more excited to see than Avengers 5. But Avengers 5, we just don't know what it could be or what it will be. So maybe now it's going to be pushed back a little bit, or maybe there will be like a smaller team-up movie instead of an Avengers movie. Maybe it will be Young Avengers. Maybe they'll build up Thunderbolts into being a bigger team-up spectacle. Maybe they recast Kang with maybe a Coleman Domingo, or maybe a John David Washington recast would be not so bad. Or maybe they just pivot entirely and they make Loki the big bad again, or whatever, or they go into the Fantastic Four movie. Shout out Pedro Pascal. The other day he won a SAG-AFTRA award, and he really thought he was going to lose yet again to Kieran Culkin for Succession, but he ended up winning, and he was like, this is wrong, I was drunk, I thought I could get drunk, but I can't, I'm going to have a panic attack and leave. And then the after interview was even funnier. He's like, I think I'm gonna go make out with Kieran Culkin, that will be my revenge. And he's like, I'm like, man, is Pedro bi? He might be. Like, either way, Pedro's fucking hilarious. But my excitement for Dune Part 2 has gone through the roof. I did rewatch Dune Part 1 last week with my buddy Barnard, and, you know, if he didn't hate it, that's how I know it's a good movie, because he's a hater. You know, he hates a lot of things. So this one, you know, he got to the end, he was like, man, that was some crazy shit. The visuals in that were unbelievable. But the reviews and early reactions for Dune Part 2 have been coming out, and people have been loving it and saying that it's a masterpiece. 10 out of 10s I've been seeing. So I'm like, I can only imagine what I'm going to think of it. You know, I'm a pretty easy audience. I like most things. But, oof, I'm beyond excited just to see what happens. I'm going to even rewatch Dune Part 1 right before I go, too. Like, oh, I'm so excited for that. I believe I'm going to go Thursday right after work, and I'm just going to go by myself if I have to and Just love every second of it. I can't wait to say Timothy Chalamet, these giant worms. Apparently he's going to be riding the worms. There's big battles. Zendaya's character is apparently bigger in this one too. So I'm excited, man. But as far as when I looked, there is 91 reviews, and the Rotten Tomato score is sitting at 97% for Dune Part 2. It's a 2-hour, 46-minute movie. I did not know that. That is a pretty hefty movie, but I'm disappointed I didn't get to see Dune 1 in theaters, so I'm going to make it happen that I see Dune 2 in theaters. You best believe that. But here's a behind-the-scenes pictures of Josh Brolin's character and Timothy Chalamet yelling at Josh Brolin, apparently. But this made me laugh because I saw his face, and I was like, this is my face wanting to see Dune Part 2. And then this other behind-the-scenes picture of them sitting back on the rock, giggling to each other, is me once I've seen Part 2. So that will be me later this week. Stay tuned for next Monday's podcast. We'll be talking all about Dune Part 2 and if it's worth it. And stay tuned this week. There'll be tons of movie reviews coming to the channel. But to finish off this episode, let's talk about a little bit of what you've been watching, huh? The Bad Batch, Season 3, the final season, has come back. Omega's back, the boys are back. The only one that's not back, unfortunately, is Tech. But this first couple episodes were good. Good to see Hunter back in action. The Emperor was back in this episode, and we're finding out more about really how he was cloned and how he was able to still be alive in those later Star Wars series. But I believe this season of The Bad Batch is like the culmination, the end of the George Lucas era of Star Wars, and now we're moving into the Dave Filoni era. Even though The Bad Batch was done by Dave Filoni, I'm pretty sure, because George isn't still hands-on as much, but it's really wild. But this bad guy here, he's a good villain. But Crosshair has been my favorite character throughout all of them, and now he's back with Omega. Omega, seen in this picture here, she has like a crossbow laser bow and arrow gun that also looks like it may have been Boba Fett's gun, maybe redesigned into a bow and arrow. But I'm hyped for the last season. That they premiered 3 episodes for that, and it was tremendous. But last Thursday, Netflix dropped the Avatar: The Last Airbender series that they had created for live action. And, I do recommend, I probably, if I had to rank it right now and put a score on it, I probably put it at like a 7 or 8 out of 10. It's not perfect. I would put the animated show at a 10 out of 10. For sure. I love the animated show so damn much, and it's so great. Just a couple of things that I was mad at with this show is that they didn't quite nail Uncle Iroh. I do like the actor they chose. He's the same actor that played Carson Teva in The Mandalorian, but he is a decent Iroh, but Iroh in the show was just such a character and such a singular entity, and he should have that feeling. When he speaks words, he should feel like the wisest man in the room at all times, and that's, I didn't quite get, but he does have some great lines, but they also made him at some points feel like he was just out of the loop, where like Iroh always knew what was up, you know what I mean? And if he was being dumb, it was because he wanted tea or something, like it wasn't ever because he didn't get the military strategy or something. Like he was always on point to a certain point, you know what I mean? But I really like Katara, Sokka, and Aang. The actors that are portraying them are great. The way that they made Appa look, I mean, Appa yip. Let's be real, like Appa's great character. He didn't get as much screen time, but obviously he didn't in the live action version, because that costs an arm and a leg in CGI budget, and this is still the first season, so I'm hoping that they did tie back the reins a little bit on this show in the first season, because it was just the first season. They wanted to see if people were going to be interested. They didn't want to just dump the budget. But I really hope that people go and watch this show and enjoy it more than I did, so that we get a second season. We get to explore, I would love to see Toph Beifong, his earthbending master that we meet in season 2 of the animated show. I would love to know who or what or how they're going to do her but that character was awesome in the show. And, you know, I think the animated show, I might even have to go back and rewatch, you know, but the original Appa, Momo, Aang, Katara, Sokka, I was absolutely in love with that animated show, and I watched it all the time. The water bending, his boomerang, his club, airbending Aang, you know, like, it was just such a different show because it's 20-minute episodes, but 20-episode seasons. They broke down that 20 episodes and just kind of stuffed it into 8 episodes of a live action, which they kind of have to do. They did do hour-long episodes in the 8 episodes, so it kind of evens out. If you do the math, kind of, it evens out. But at the same time, there was so much more story packed into those animated shows that it just didn't make too much sense in the middle. I will say the first 2 episodes I really liked, and then episode 3 was like Omashu. That one wasn't all that bad, but episode 4, Into the Dark, and episode 5, Spirited Away, I did not like because they didn't do it as well as the animated show did, and it felt like they just kind of were trying to fit this story in, but the story was completely different than the animated show. The animated show had all of the details, and it made sense, and we understood it a lot more, where those middle episodes I was kind of like, what did they do here? They just kind of stuffed the story and made it into a different story and took different episodes and made it into one episode. It was like different, and it was weird. But then episode 6, 7, 8, I didn't mind. You know, 6 was pretty good, 7 was way better than those middle episodes, and then 8, you know, They did it justice, at least because that was how the season 1 ended, and it was a big climactic ending with Commander Zhao and the Water Tribe of the North. So I like the way they did it, but I still don't understand why episode 8 is called Legends and not like Princess Yue or the Battle of the North or whatever, but episode 7 was called The North. I don't know. It didn't make a ton of sense to me where they went with it, but I'm also, you know, I was impressed at least that they made it look proper. You know, like they were like, okay, he's supposed to have this orange thing, he's supposed to be able to fly on this bow, she's supposed to be in this blue thing, and she's a waterbender, and he's supposed to have a boomerang. Like, none of it makes real sense, but it does if you are fans of the lore and the context, and I don't know, it was a good time. I would love to hear in the comment section below, what do you guys think of the Avatar show? Was it worth your time? Did you think the same thing I did? I liked the beginning, I liked the end, but the middle didn't really love it for me. But, you know, it is what it is. And I'm also excited this week that I'm going to be getting into some other things. I just started The Beef recently. That first episode's pretty wild, so I'm curious to see how that ends. I think that's 10 episodes, so limited series, so I'm going to bang that out. I finished The Bear. That was wonderful. Check that out on Hulu if you haven't. I've started Reacher. That's pretty good. Alan Rickman, Rickson, or whatever his name is, the guy that plays Reacher, he won me over in that first episode, so I'm excited to see what happens in episode 2. I've been watching the show on HBO Max called Tokyo Vice. Episode 3 came out last week, and episode 4 came out this week. And episode 4 ends with a guy getting thrown off a building, and the reporter finds it. Like, whew, like, that show is so good, especially if you're into, like, Japanese culture, the Yakuza, stuff like that, like I am. I'm so far into that show, and I think it's really good, so I'm glad it got a second season, and so far, I'm impressed with that, so that's what I'm watching currently. Dune Thursday, I got a haircut on Friday, so I don't know if I'm gonna go bald, but I'm gonna at least fix up the widow's peak here in the front. That grows in too heavy all the time. I'm definitely gonna trim this beard, it's just too hefty. I just get lazy because now I can be, because I have long hair. I literally used to get haircuts every 2 weeks because I used to have, you know, lined up toothpicks because I had no beard and I never had hair. I always had like a 2 on the top, 1 on the sides, you know, so I had this like fade going on. It was a bad look. I don't know why in high school no one told me it was as bad as it was. But Deadpool and Wolverine. Shout out to New Rockstars. Their merch game is fucking unbelievable. I saw this little half and half Wolverine Deadpool. I was like, I fucking need to have it. So of course I got it. I've been every shirt they come out with recently, I'm like, I'm not gonna get that new one. And then they come out with it, and I'm like, oh, that was a really cool one. I'm gonna get it. You know, I've been weak with it. But Deadpool and Wolverine has my excitement too for July. The cast from Deadpool 2, Mosley's back, Buck, Blind Al, Shatterstar, his girl there. I'm not sure why Deadpool has hair, but he's interacting with the TVA. They're pulling him into a portal. These TVA agents look like TVA agents, but not quite the ones we saw. So maybe this is a different branch. I'm still trying to figure out why Deadpool has hair. Like, maybe that's from the wig. They had, like, stapled it to his head. So that's, like, staples that we see in his head with the hair. I don't know. But that seems painful. But I love that they got Matthew McFadden now, Golden Globe winner and winner of the Succession, you know, like, so now he's been a big Marvel movie, so shout out to him. He probably loved being Paradox, but he's showing us different Marvel films and showing Deadpool different Marvel films, and Deadpool's like getting this guy taken away by Goliath, and he's watching it happen, he's like, oh fuck, you know, like he's in front of the fuck sign doing tactical reloads. He's, you know, got the perfect outfit, the perfect belt symbol, you know, like perfect comic book accurate suit. He can't help but show us his ass get groped by a Mickey Mouse glove. He can't help but do a split in the friggin' elevator. He can't help but have stab wounds and blood all over this car and 3 claw marks in the seat, and he's going, come here, Wolfie, let's go, let's keep fighting. And he's like, I can take it, you know, and I'm just so excited for this movie. I think it's going to be great. Wolverine, probably that same car he was just in, Wolverine seems like he throws him out the back of the car. He has to snap his wrist back into place because he's got broken arms and shit. Deadpool is such a good character. I never talked about this guy holding this thing here. He almost looks like he's got like a half Doom mask, half like Star-Lord mask, but this like magnet thing, I don't know what this is, but you can see a helicarrier in the background of that picture. So I don't know, man, there's just so much. But this, in the final shot where he's like laying there and you see the shadow walk up and he gets stabbed, I mean, it's fun stuff that we get. That's the only real glimpse of Hugh Jackman we get, is the yellow and blue outfit on his back. But in that same shot over in the corner was a bottle from the Incredible Hulk, and the bottle that his blood fell in that Stan Lee broke, so that got pruned. And then there's also a Secret Wars magazine that has the Beyonders on it, and has Dr. Doom in it. So like they teased this in the trailer. Marvel knows what they're doing, so they're getting us these juicy details. Like, oh my god, I can't wait for this movie. Comment below any Easter eggs for that Deadpool thing that I missed. How do you feel about Avatar? What do you think Avengers 5's title is going to be? What have you guys been watching? Have you been into any of the shows I've been watching? What movie recommendations do you have for me for this coming up week? You guys got some Harry Potter stuff, but some other stuff mixed in there as well. So stay tuned for that. And then I'll see you guys next Monday for another Comically Boston podcast. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far in the video, please like it, subscribe. It helps the channel. Share it with a buddy. It helps immensely it helps so much to get other people watching this stuff. And I'm really appreciative to anyone that goes out of their way and watches this and drops a like or a comment. I love every one of you. I answer every comment. If you have any thoughts to how I can make this podcast better, you can email me, comicallyboston@gmail.com, or I might do a little Q&A, so if you got questions for me, email me over there. I'll leave my email right here, comicallyboston@gmail.com. Follow my links in the description below, my Instagram, my Twitter, BIGGCAM, pretty much anywhere you can find me. Threads, Big Cam YouTube on Twitter. You can follow me on my other social medias, links down in the description below. Follow my Letterboxd, see what other movies I've done this year. I'm still, day for day, I have watched a movie a day all year, this year so far, almost into March, and I am still 1 for 1, and actually I'm even a little bit past 1 for 1, because last Friday, Saturday, I did 2 in each day, so I was like, you know, now I'm 2 days ahead, technically, but either way, I've been having a good time watching the movies and some first time watches, and I got tons of lists over there and rankings and stuff like that, so go check out my Letterboxd. I really appreciate you guys. Subscribe if you're new. If you see my face, please like the videos, watch them. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys want to talk more in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next video.